Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's happening? What's happening? Peace, peace, peace to everybody. This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. So I'm sorry for the delay. I was just trying to get everything together. All right, so I haven't been as active lately, so I'm starting to get back into the groove of doing so. As you can see, tonight's topic is dealing with philosophy, and the topic is going to be talking about the great chain of being. All right. So before I continue, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, etc. So I'm gonna go into what is the great chain of being and how it's relevant. All right, and I'm gonna show some things that I have created using my Gemini AI generator. So it has like a little image concept on there, a little icon button that you can use to make images or whatnot. So let's go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to be using this book right here. It's called Dictionary of Theories. All right. So I recommend you guys to get this book. So let's go into what is the chain of being. All right. So according to this dictionary, the chain of being, also called the great chain of being and Scala Natura, based on ideas of Plato and Aristotle, but popularized in biology in the writings of German philosopher Gottfried Leibniz, French naturalist George Louis Leclerc, and Swiss philosopher Charles Bonnet. This is the influential concept that all of nature, from non-living matter to sophisticated organism to spiritual beings, forms an unbroken physical and metaphysical series. The theory's biological significant development in the 18th century, when species were arranged in a great series or hierarchy. Certain species, such as the green hydra, were thought to be crucial links in the series. The notion that particular metals, animals, or classes of human outrank others is no longer accepted as part of mainstream science. All right. Now let's go into more details. And it says that literary theory view of the world as compromising a finely graded hierarchy of entities with God at the top, man in the middle, problematically between angels and animals, and the lowest form at the bottom. This worldview has implication for literary structure and themes. All right, so basically, the Great Chain of Being started around the medieval period. All right, it started around the medieval period. Shout out to you, peace be to you, brother. So during the time period where the Christian community, they looked at as God being the higher being out of everybody, okay? Being at the top of the pyramid, and the minerals or non-animated objects were at the bottom of the pyramid, okay? So to even elaborate more, I would recommend people to get this book right here, okay? Uh, let me open it up for you guys. Let me see. Is it all right? So I would recommend you guys to get this book to go more into details. All right, so this book right here is called The Great Chain of Being, the study of the history of an idea by Arthur O. Lovejoy, which came out in 1936. Okay. But let's go into like a little bit of information to kind of give a better example. Let me just so let me pull it up on Wikipedia. Now, here it is. So, the Great Chain Being is a hierarchical structure of all matter and life thought by medieval Christianity to have been decreed by God. The chain begins with God and descending through angels, humans, animal, and plants to mineral. Okay. So, the Great Chain of Being, also known as Scala Naturae, which is the ladder of being, is a concept derived from Plato, Aristotle, as mentioned before. All right. Further developed during the Middle Ages, it reached full expression in early modern Neoplatism, right? So the chain of being hierarchy has God at the top, above angels, which like him are entities spirit, entirely spirit, without material bodies and hence unchangeable. Beneath them are humans consisting both of spirit and matter. They change and die and are thus essentially impermanent. Excuse me. Lower are animals and plants. At the bottom are the mineral materials of the earth itself. They consist only matter. Thus, the higher being is in the chain, the more attributes it has, including all the attributes of the beings below it. The mineral are in the medieval mind a possible exception of the immutability of the mineral beings in the chain, as alchemy promised to turn lower elements like lead into those higher up the chain like silver or gold. All right. So it goes into details at the bottom, as you can see on Wikipedia. All right. So this was like the earliest form of evolution before there was a concept of evolution. Again, this was like the earliest form of evolution before the concept of evolution came into place. This is how they understood evolution in Christianity. Now, watch this. And it says in evolution, right? It says the set of nature species. Thus, the absoluteness of creatures placed in the great chain came into question during the 18th century. The dual nature of the chain, divided yet united, had always allowed for seeing creation as essentially one continuous whole with the potential for overlap between the links. Radical thinkers like Jean-Baptiste Lamarck saw a progression of life forms from the simplest creatures striving towards complexity and perfection, a schema accepted by zoologists like Henry de Belleville. The very idea of an ordering of organism, even if supposedly fixed, laid the basis for the idea of transmutation of species, whether progressive, goal-directed orthogenesis, or Charles Darwin undirect theory of evolution. And it goes on to say that the chain of being continued to be part of metaphysics in the 19th century education, and the concept was well known. The geologist Charles Lyell used it as a metaphor in his 1851 Elements of Geology description of the geological column, where he used the term missing links about missing parts of the continuum. The term missing link later came to signify transitional fossils, particularly those bridging the gulf between man and beast. All right, and it says the idea of the great chain as well as the derived missing link, quote unquote, was abandoned in the early 20th century science as the notion that embryonic development recapitulates lower forms was abandoned in biology to be replaced by an evolutionary tree supplemented by horizontal gene transfer, as well as more complex web structures. The idea of a certain sequence from lower to higher complexity and fitness is still popular, as is the idea of progress in biology. So, again, this was the philosophical concept that was believed in the medieval time periods of Christianity. Okay, so this was the earliest form of evolution before evolution was even thought of. All right, so you can look at this as a form of natural philosophy. All right, so I'm going to show you the examples that I created using AI. All right, so let me put up the post real fast. Let me. All right, so let me show you a post. Let me stop the screen right here. Let me stop sharing this screen. Let me share the other screen. So this one here is what I made through my AI generator on Gemini. And this is the Congo Cosmogram. So I use the Congo Cosmogram here, for example, the Great Chain of Being. So as you can see, it shows God and spirit. Then it goes down to human, animal, plants and ancestors, minerals, and spirit. So as you can see, it says Kala, birth slash dawn, Tukula, life slash noon, Lavima or Lavimba, which is death slash sunset, and Musani, rebirth and slash midnight. All right. So this is the cosmogram in the Congo belief system. All right. So this is the way to help explain. I was kind of playing around with it, but it's a way to actually explain like what the great chain of being would look like in the Congo belief system. Okay. All right. So as you can see, God and spirit, then human, animal, plants, ancestors, minerals, and spirit, going back to the gods and spirits. All right. So that's one example. Let me share another screen. Okay. Let me go ahead and share another screen. So let's go on my Gemini here. All right, so here's another example that I used. All right, so this one here, I use another example of Taoism. All right, so the great chain of being in Taoism, you see the Tao is the way, then you got the yin and the yang, then you have heaven, earth, and humanity, right? Then you go down, you'll see wood, fire, earth, metal, water. Okay, again, just getting creative with it. All right, so then here's another one that I used. This is dealing with philosophy. So as you can see, the way it's set up, non-being, element, prime matter, being. All right, minerals, plants, animal, mineral, the realm of becoming, physical world, human, angels, and the pure forms. All right, so that's philosophy. And then the realm of being is intelligible world. So you ascend towards perfection and you descend into matter. Okay. So that's how it would be set up in these schools of thoughts. And let me give another great one. Let's see. Let me go. Let me go over here real quick. Um, Let me find another great one. Another good example. Let's use hoodoo. Okay, I'm trying to wait for this. All right, here we go. So the great chain of being in hoodoo, if it was used in the hoodoo tradition, right? Spirit and divine forces, lower ancestor, humanity, root workers, and practitioners, right? And then animal kingdom, familiars, totems, plant kingdom, the roots and herbs, mineral kingdom, stones, crystals, elemental forces, earth, water, fire, air, and animated objects, curios, and tools. All right, this is what it looked like. This is what it would look like in the hoodoo tradition, all right, or in the hoodoo philosophy if we was use the great chain of being. And I'm gonna give like maybe three more examples. Yeah, let me give another good example, maybe like three more. All right. All right. So now this is what would look like in atheism. All right, right here. Right here, the great chain of being atheism, right? A materialistic hierarchy of emergent complexity. Okay. So it will go from matter to physical laws and energy, cosmic evolution, biological evolution, right? And then you see what it say natural selection over here, emergent properties. And then it'll go up to human consciousness, culture, and ethics. Okay. So this is what the great chain of being will look like in atheism. And then let me see if I can pull up the one for pantheism. All right. So this is what it looked like in pantheism. Divine universe, cosmos, celestial beings, right? Humanity, animals, plant life, and minerals and elemental forces. Or if you want to look at it backwards, right? Mineral, elemental forces, plant lives, humanity. I mean animals, humanity, and then you go back to the cosmos. So it's like descend and ascend. So it's vice versa. It's one way, and then it's also can be vice versa as well. So let me see. Let me see what else I can pull up. Okay, let's look at the one in the Ephod tradition. So if we want to deal with that in the Ephod tradition, you got Papa Leba, all right, Baron Samadhi, which is spirits, deity Loa, right? Bunde, which is supreme creator, okay? And then you got the ancestors, you got human beings, you got animals and plants, and you got minerals and objects. And then again, it can go into reverse, all right? So this is in the voodoo, or no, it's this in the Ephod tradition, I believe. Yep. Oh no, no. That was voodoo. Now let me show you the Ephod I meant. All right, now this is the Ephod. The other one was in the voodoo. So the great chain of being Ephod will be Oludumare, the Orisha, the Agun, which is the ancestor. The Orisha is the deity and divine forces. Humanity, which be the earthly beings, nature, plants, animals, and minerals. Okay, so that's how it would look like in this order. hmm And then let's see, one more, one more. All right. Let me see which one. All right, so this one will be also in the Egyptian school of thoughts. So right here it says the great chain of being in Egyptian cosmology. So the first one is the Atumara, which is the creator, source of all. Then the gods would be the divine principles and orders. And humanity, the pharaoh as intermediary society. The natural world, which is living beings, earth. The underworld, which is Duat, afterlife, ancestors. And Nun, which is the primeval waters, chaos, and non-existence. All right. So it'll go down here and then it also ascend back up. Again, vice versa. So yeah, just kind of give you an idea of what it would look like in various different schools of thoughts. So in different schools of system. I hope you guys were able to see that video or see the clips that I showed or whatnot. But that's how, if you was to put it in the AI generator and you type in the different schools of thoughts, that's how they would look at what we call the great chain of being. Okay. So again, this is a philosophical concept that was around during the medieval period. And things have changed. That it has changed now because the advancement of science. So science have upgraded since then. So now people operate from the concept of evolution. And evolution shows things otherwise, show it in a different form. So instead of going one way, it goes the other way. Right. So it will be like in the reverse. So yeah, basically when we get into the evolutionary concept, you deal with the cosmic evolution, then you get into the biological evolution, then you go all the way down to cultural evolution. No, wait a minute. It's cosmic evolution, and then I think it's stellar evolution, then it's biological evolution, then you got cultural evolution. Okay. So that will be the great chain of being of today. Cosmic evolution, stellar evolution, biological evolution, and then culture evolution. All right. In that order. So if you guys don't know what I mean, I can pull it up for you. The orders of evolutions from cosmic to culture. All right. So let me hold on. Let me see. Okay, let's look up the 7 stages. All right, here we go. All right, so no comments. No comments. I see your comment, but no comments. Ah, boy. No comments. All right, so shout out to you, brother. No comments. That's all I gotta say. No comments on that individual. All right, then. All right, so as you can see here, so this is what cosmic evolution from Big Bang to humankind looks like. So it says the arrow of time from origin of universe to the present and beyond span several major epochs throughout all of history. Cosmic evolution is the study of the many varied changes in assembly and composition of energy, matter, and life in the thinning and cooling universe. So you see, it says particulate, right? Galactic, stellar, planetary, chemical, biological, cultural, and then you got future evolution. Again, particulate, which deals with like the particles. Galactic deals with like, the stars or whatnot. And stellar, which deals with the sun, the moon, and whatnot. Planetary, that gets into the earth, which the planet earth and, or the seven different planets. All right. What I think is six now. Then you got the chemicals. Okay. So that's when you deal with elements and all of those different things. Then you got biological, which you deal with the organisms, which is our cells. Okay. And then you got the culture evolution, which deals with the culture of humanity. And then you got the future, which basically, what is the future evolution look like? We don't know yet. So, and that's that. All right, so you guys can look this up, download this if you need to. But this will be like the great chain of being in modern times. Again, this will be the great chain of being in modern times from a scientific standpoint. All right. So I hope that made sense of what I was saying. And I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with your comment. You have a good point right there. It's very important to break things down in a way that the average mind can really understand because science itself is very complicated, right? It's a very complicated subject. But if you study more into it, you'll get a better understanding. You'll gain some more knowledge and you'll be able to know how to break things down in its simplicity. And yeah, so it depends on what field of study that you are in science. So only certain scientists can break things down where the average mind can really understand. Again, scientists can break things down and where the average mind can understand. But sometimes it takes a person to actually study the resources, study the whether they have to look at articles, read books or whatnot, and start off at the beginning level. That's why I recommend certain people who can actually articulate scientific knowledge. So, like for example, here I have this book. It's called Tassetti, which is a tablet of African science, engineering, and technology information by African Creation Energy. Okay, so he was one of the few brothers that I had the pleasure to have on this platform. And he has a channel called the African Creation Energy Channel. So if you guys really want to understand science from a more African standpoint, like the African perspective, or from a philosophical standpoint of black knowledge, if you want to call it that, right? Check out this brother's channel, which is African Creation Energy. He does a great job. When I say he does a thorough job in explaining scientific knowledge, he does a thorough job. And this book right here is very thick. So, like, he goes into explaining like the periodic table, physics, mathematics, whatever you can think of. Hell, he even talk about evolution. Okay. So you can go on his channel and you can just look at it for yourself and you'll be able to get a better understanding. So what I'm gonna do is Matthew, I'm gonna post his channel in the comment section so you guys can look it up for yourselves. Okay, let's look it up. Let me look up his channel, African Creation Energy. Let me let me go ahead and all right, so I shared the link in the comments. So all you have to do is type in African Creation Energy. If you really want to understand science from a very simple standpoint, start off in, from a rudimentary standpoint, rather, go on his page and you can get more information. Let me see what the brother says. Science is also about being practical, hence why being pragmatic is significant. Yes, I agree. I mean, and let me tell you something. We are very pragmatic when it comes to science. Let me explain. Every day we use science. We use science in our personal lives. Every day. Whether it be in the kitchen, cooking something to eat, or whipping up other things. Whether it be working on cars, building transmission, putting in a motor, taking out the alternator, putting gas in the car, we dealing with science. Whether it be going to the gym and working out, we dealing with science. Whether it be cutting grass, right, or cutting down bushes, you're dealing with science. Whether you're building a house or doing carpentry, doing plumbing, doing some type of, I don't know, working on electrical wires, you're dealing with science. Hell, even if you're building technology on your cell phone, using like different type of generators, okay? Different generators on your phone, you're dealing with science. Whether you fixing a bicycle and riding the bike, you're dealing with science. Hell, we could talk about sports. Let's look at football, for example. If you look at football, right, or basketball, baseball, but particularly in football, you deal with a lot of physics and mathematics. Because when you look at the yards, right, from 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, all the way up to 90 yards or whatever, that is the mathematics. But when you want to look at how fast a person can go from 1 yard to the other end of the yard, right? That's physics. Again, if you want to measure the distance of how fast a person can go from one end of the yard to another end, that's physics. That's physics in itself. So when these guys sit back and watch football and, you know what I'm saying, they keep up with their favorite teams or whatnot. And if you notice, the men, they discuss how many yards they was running. They was like, man, that man ran like 30 yards. He ran like 35. He was at the 45 line. They're discussing science without even knowing they talking about science. So that's science in itself all together when you're dealing with football. And then when you have the kicker out there, right, and he doing the field goal, again, that's physics. How far can the ball go into a field goal? How far can he kick? Okay. So in everyday life, you're dealing with science. You're studying science. You just may not see it that way, but science is a part of life. Period. Okay? And yes, we are dealing with science even in our action within everyday life. Absolutely. Because now let's deal with biology. We can talk about biology, right? Your biological nature, your physical characteristic. That's science. That's science. You are the living science. Again, you are the living science. You are living science. You are breathing science. You are talking science every single day. Again, you are living science. You are breathing science. And you are talking science every single day. All right, you guys, that's all I have for the evening. Thank you guys for tuning in, watching, and thank you for supporting my channel. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the new subscriber that I have. Okay. I appreciate you all so much. So I will keep you guys updated, informed with the topics that I'm going to get into, right? So it's a lot more that I'm looking for doing in the following year that's coming. I'm looking to do a lot more. So I'm just trying to brainstorm everything and trying to get everything together, trying to figure out how I'm going to map it out. But outside of that, I appreciate every last one of you for being supportive, being here throughout the years. You know, my day ones, I appreciate y'all. You know what I'm saying? So progress is being made. Things are going to get better. So I'm working towards that. Let me read this one last comment. And yes, there's even a spiritual aspect to science. Oh, yes. Oh, we can go into that. We can talk about that too. Spirituality was a precursor of science. Again, spirituality was the precursor of science. So spirituality will be looked at as natural philosophy. But that's going to be another topic, a whole nother topic in itself. Okay? Because there's some things that I want to break down eventually dealing with our African ancestors, okay, and how they adapt to nature. So that's going to be a whole nother topic. So I'm gonna keep you posted on that, but I'm glad that you brought that up as well, brother. But all right, you guys, have a wonderful evening. Peace and power and elevation be to all you. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging off. And like I said, make sure you guys check out this brother right here. Subscribe to his channel. You can also look up on Amazon. He got a variety of books, but this book right here is very thick, but it comes in handy. All right, so y'all have a good evening. Peace.